Welcome, welcome, welcome. If you have not been on the first episode, welcome to the second episode. This is We Gotta Unpack This Ish, okay? This is the space where I get real, I get honest, and I unpack lessons life keeps trying to teach me. Now, if you don't know who I am, my name is Jasmine Holman. I am the founder and CEO of Janet Marcella LLC, a wellness brand dedicated to 100% natural skincare and energy wellness. And listen, I am here to unpack my ish. So today, I want to talk about something that didn't truly click with me until I went through my marriage. Actually, a few points. And not the ending of the marriage, because sometimes I feel like we'll look at the ending and be like, oh yeah, now that makes sense. No, I was starting to have things click with me during the marriage itself. Okay? Because sometimes the situations that drains you is the same situation that really reveals who you are. And being in a relationship where I constantly felt unseen, unsupported, and emotionally drained, it made me look at my own patterns in a way that I had never done before, because it was always so easy to point out what somebody else was doing or the situations. But to really have something mirror me and show me myself, that was truly groundbreaking. And so today we're going to unpack the patterns my marriage exposed, patterns that kept me overgiving, doubting myself, carrying everything alone, shutting down, and letting other people's energy take over my whole spirit. And just be patient with me, y'all. This is like my second video, so I do have notes. Because why? I don't know about you, but I can get to rambling, and I really want to stay on point. I really want to make sure that I'm hitting my points, and that if you're receiving this, that it resonates with you. So let's unpack this ish, okay? All right. Get my notes out. The first point that I noticed, let me start with this. My marriage actually forced me to look at this one really loud. This one thing really loud, because it's kind of what set the whole chain of thought into motion. My marriage showed me that my biggest pattern is overgiving to someone who only gives me the bare minimum or breadcrumbs. Okay? I was the emotional backbone, definitely. The planner, the caretaker, the person making sure the kids were good, the house was good, all the bills were up to date and paid, organized, made sure doctor's appointments were good, and that the energy in the home was always stable. And, he would show up from time to time on his time when he felt like it. And it usually was only when it benefited him. And at times when he would show up, I would convince myself that because he was paying all the bills or because he was doing certain things, that it was my obligation to overpour, to overgive, to make sure that everything was in balance. Okay? And that's because I'm nurturing. I kept overpouring, let's emphasize overpouring, not just pouring, but overpouring. I felt like if I loved a lot harder, if I held on a little tighter, if I stayed patient, that he would eventually meet me where I was. And I also kept thinking to myself, well, if he's doing X, Y, and Z, then I need to be doing this. And that's the only way it's going to balance itself out. And in all honesty, he was taking advantage of that aspect of myself. Because he never did. He just never showed up. And that's when I realized that I wasn't overgiving because he deserved it, right? I was overgiving because I felt like I needed to earn that love. Like, if I don't do these things, I will not be loved, or I'll be looked at this way. Because perception was very important to me as a wife, as a mother, as the gatekeeper of the home. It was very important to me. And he knew that when we talked about it previous to getting engaged, how important it was for me to be a wife and my family, and how that was going to look as the structure. Okay? And then once I saw how much I was overgiving, because listen, overgiving will drain the shit out of you, okay? Something else actually really became very clear after that. It's like a chain reaction. It's like, boom, this one thing, boom, another thing, right? I wasn't just pouring into the wrong places. That's what I realized. I was shrinking in the right ones. So even in places where I knew I could thrive, where I would be seen, I would be heard, I would feel the love that I was pouring back into me. I was actually making myself very, 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 very small, right? And this pattern pretty much hit me every time I got close to getting a breakthrough. Like, for instance, going on a TV show like The Blocks. I look back now and realize how much more I could have utilized that space, but I felt like I wasn't even worthy to be there. I felt like I was too small to be there. And I'm thankful for all of my castmates who totally uplifted me, made me feel comfortable. It was so overwhelming, though, that my anxiety went through the roof. And me and my castmate talk about it all the time. And that was something that I realized was right before a breakthrough. Like, every time I would shrink myself. When I started really building Janet Marcella, when I started truly embracing my spiritual gifts, when I started creating content, that's really where it showed up. Because I would find myself feeling stressed, overthinking, overcritical of myself, over all the overs, okay? And nothing sat right. And I feel like I was trying to push myself into a space. Even my videos didn't come off natural. It was always so rehearsed and so focused, right? And I also noticed that when I started to glow in ways, he couldn't stand to see me do that. And it wasn't verbal. It wasn't a verbal thing, because some people can be verbal, right? It was more of energy and just how he moved around me. Things just switched up, right? And I didn't want to think he was my enemy, because he's my husband. I'm thinking, he knew what I was about to do when I was doing this. I told him from jump, right? But see, I started getting more anxious. He'd pull back more emotionally. He'd get cold, he would get frustrated, or even just dark as hell, shut down. And then suddenly I started questioning myself, like, am I doing too much? Is this stupid? Should I step back? Should I put more emphasis on the family? Should I ask him what his dreams are? What does he want? Which I've already asked him these things, right? I was the only one inspiring to build a business for our family, but maybe I need to focus more on the family and the dreams of getting this house and being the perfect wife and all these things, because that's how it should look. So he doesn't feel emasculated. So he feels like he is leading the home, because I know that I am a very assertive person. I know that I'm a natural born leader, but maybe this is just too much, right? And I realized in this whole grand scheme of things, even though he wasn't saying it, he was finding ways to manipulate it through his behavior, right? And so it wasn't my doubt, is what I realized. It was the emotional climate of my marriage. I was dimming myself to keep the peace in a place that never had peace to begin with. Okay? I was dimming myself to make him feel better, because I didn't want my husband he's already supporting me. He helped me to get on this trip. He's giving me money. He's paying all the bills. When I got let go from my job, he's like, take your time, figure out what you want to do. Figure out how you want to build your business, Jasmine. But how in the hell was I supposed to build my business under the duress that I was in? If the environment was never set up for me to be successful, right? But that was a manipulation tactic. That was a way to keep me boxed in, right? And that's where I was dimming my light, and I was always stressed out and always sick. You know what I'm saying? And I did not realize that there was never peace in the first place, right? And then here's the thing, though. When you start doubting yourself and overgiving at the same time, you're going to naturally slip into other patterns. And this pattern right here is, this is me. And I hear a lot of them say, I'm the alpha and all. Nah, we don't hear all that, right? But when you're in these other patterns and the environment is set up for you to pretty much fail, you start trying to carry the whole world by yourself. That's what I was doing. My marriage taught me to be super independent to the point of almost isolation, because honestly, I couldn't depend on emotional support. I couldn't depend on him to be consistent at all. It depended on the mood and where he was at in life. I couldn't depend on him to even follow through. I was always having to follow through. Even as we've been separated now. I mean, we're cool now. We don't, we get along for the sake of the kids. I'm still finding myself having to be like, hey, did this get done? So it never changed. It just was At times he would step up and then I would think, oh, okay, he's doing great. No, but I couldn't depend on him. In my mind, I'm like, oh, I can't depend on him. I have to do this all myself. And of course, naturally, I get blamed. Oh, you're a single mom. You're going back into single mom mode. No. I would love for a man to lead. I would love to come home and not have to think and do all these things. But as somebody who is a natural born leader, when I see that a person is not following suit, I'm going to naturally step in, right? Because I'm not trying to, it's like the blind leading the blind. We're not about to all fall off the cliff, okay? I'm going to say, no, let's make that right. And of course, that's when the guilt tripping came in and the way he would act. And then I would find myself overpouring back into him to boost his mentality back up, to make him feel like, oh, no, babe, we're a team. Because we were a team. But not in our reality, we wasn't a team. I have to be the leader because you want to stand on the sideline, okay? And step in when you feel like you want to tell me what to do. Like almost like those backseat drivers. I'm the one driving. All of a sudden now you want to say something. Or people like when you start creating something, all of a sudden now they have all these ideas and they want to do this. No. You wasn't there. Where was you when I was shooting in the gym? Okay? But I couldn't even depend on him to be considerate of my schedule before making decisions. A lot of the decisions were made how he wanted to make them. So I kind of learned to do everything alone. And then when you realize you're like the strong one, because I am, you don't even realize how much you're actually carrying, right? And so your body starts to shake under the weight. And that's when I really started seeing myself crashing out a lot, because my body carrying all that stuff, I found days where I could barely walk. I started getting lower back pains, like horrible lower back pains. I was sick all the time. I could barely consume food. I had headaches. I was always lethargic and tired. I mean, like I said, I feel like I had weights sitting on me. I was always like hunched over. And no matter how much I try to power through it, I could not, because I think I just didn't realize how much I was carrying. And he would say things like, babe, you need to like slow down and you need to do this. Okay, that sounds great in theory, but if you're not doing and helping me without me having to ask you or, depending on you, I have to. I have 3 kids that depend on me. This home depends on me. And if you're going to shut down because life didn't go your way, guess who has to step in and make sure you're lifted, make sure the kids are good, make sure that the home is good, and then who's taking care of me? Who's taking care of Jasmine? So now here I am falling apart. Here my hair is falling out. My hair was falling out. My skin looks horrible, okay? Whew. And I was seeing this. I was seeing me slowly dying inside. And I even thought I had my fibromyalgia because I went to the doctor and they could not figure out what was going on with me. And TMI, my period was the worst. Oh my God. So many things wrong with my body. So many things wrong with my body. And when you're carrying everything alone long enough, right? Eventually your body's going to respond and be like, the only way it knows. It's going to be like, I'm shutting down. I'm shutting down. And my body shut the hell down on me. And it wasn't laziness, even though I thought I was being lazy. I thought I was being a procrastinator. I thought I was going into a deep, dark depression. I felt like, oh my God, here I am. I don't want on a TV show. I'm trying to build this business. And now I don't even want to do anything. And I really started becoming even harder on myself, super critical on myself, which pushed me down into a deeper, deeper conundrum of like just upsettedness and constantly like yelling and lashing out and just hypercritical of everyone and everything around me because my body had shut down. It was in survival. Motherhood, content creation, healing work, job searching. I still needed a 9-to-5 to bring in the money, spiritual development, all while living with someone whose energy drained the fuck out of me. And it became too much. So my nervous system would basically freeze. Couldn't do nothing. I would go sit down and be like, I'm going to make content today. Child, could barely make a video. Okay? And the task was just always too big. And the emotions were so freaking heavy that I would just shut down. Even though the tasks aren't big, I can do these things. I was doing them before I met him. I was a single mom with 2 kids before I met him. This wasn't nothing for me. Look, I'm an OG. I could do this with my eyes closed. My people knew that. But I couldn't find myself being my best self. And that, I used to judge myself for that. I was so hard on myself. And then that didn't help. And so Janet Marcella, what was to become of it, stalled a lot. I couldn't get it where I wanted it to go. And I was so hypercritical. And then I'm doom scrolling or death scrolling, whatever the hell y'all call that shit. I'm scrolling, looking at everybody else's stuff, thinking like, why? Look at this person. Why am I da-da-da-da? Not realizing that my body was trying to protect itself from the emotional burnout. Because I was still trying to love him. And I hate when people say, oh, well, why did you stay when you saw these things? Because, baby, love will do that to you. And also when you have created this narrative that you believe is why these things are happening, especially for me being married, I didn't want to think or look at my husband in that manner. I wanted to think that maybe it's just me. Maybe I don't have the juice. Maybe I'm the one that's not getting it right, you know? And so I just kept shutting down, and I eventually just shut down permanently for a while, right? And the shutdown became even heavier when the environment that I was living in wasn't peaceful, because we were arguing all the time. I didn't feel like I was getting the support that I needed. Thank you for paying the bills, and that was one less stress off of me, but I could do that. Like, the thing is, I could do that. If I was in the right environment and I had the right support, I could have maintain a healthy job. I was working a $12 an hour job, making smoothies, okay? I lost my other job because, again, the weight of the world. I was dealing with postpartum. I was going through so much, so I couldn't even show up in the workplace, and I beat myself up thinking that I was a horrible employee. That, and then, of course, the people don't know what you're really going through, and you're trying to put this mask on because when you first started your job, you looked amazing. You were in there killing. I was killing it. And then you realize they're using you, too. You realize that this doesn't just transcend in a marriage. This behavior transcends into environments, into job environments, into working under certain types of employers. So, like, none of my environments were peaceful. And then the patterns just kept showing up. And I didn't even realize I had all these patterns until I was, like, in too deep, okay? And I realized I absorbed energy very deeply, because not only am I dealing with these patterns, but I'm absorbing all of this negative energy, all of this low vibrational mentality and thought process. And it was like I didn't have a safe space to really cleanse myself. And that's what my brand is all about, right? I created Janet Marcella to help me with that. And even when I tried to use it, it was just so heavy around me. So like whenever he would come home with his cold, dark, frustrated energy, like my whole spirit would shift. Like, me and my kids, we having a great time grooving in the house. I'd be cooking, cleaning, adding sage, sprayed my grounding spray. Child boo, he come home, and here I am focused on, why are you upset? Are you all right? And then sometimes I think he did it on purpose to be manipulative, and sometimes I think because he couldn't deal with his with his, not postpartum, PTSD and his own depression and mental issues, that they carried over into the house. And it didn't just affect me, it affected the kids too, right? Because I would wake up fine, right? I would be ready to create, ready to film, ready to work. And then he would come in, and it's like my vibration would go, boop, done with. I couldn't do nothing. I would try to record, would get frustrated. I couldn't get anything done. And I really beat myself up because I want to see Janet Marcella grow. I want to see it win. I didn't even want to create products, because when I create my products, I like to be in a really great high vibrational space, because I'm channeling in all this frequency to pour into my products. So the whole point of it is about pouring into yourself, tapping into your highest energy, your highest good, loving yourself authentically where you are in life, and honoring those emotions, honoring those moments. But how in the hell was I supposed to fucking honor those emotions if I'm literally sitting in like deep dark clouds everywhere, So I wasn't just reacting, I was absorbing everything. And it really took me a long time to realize that emotional chaos I was feeling really wasn't mine. I was living basically in somebody else's storm, and that person was perfectly fine with me being in that storm with them, okay? and transmuting it to me and absorbing all my goodness. So that's why all of a sudden his life is elevating. And I'm looking at him like, wait a minute. Before I met you, I was doing great. And now I'm looking like a haggard woman. I'm losing weight. My clothes look crazy. I can't keep a damn job. My kids are not getting the best of me at all I do is sit around and watch movies and smoke weed and drink. And I love to smoke weed and drink. But now it's becoming almost numbing, and then eventually I couldn't even drink anymore. My stomach was so jacked up, I couldn't even drink. Like alcohol, just didn't sit well. And even weed didn't do anything for me after a while. We just made me so much more tired, and I was always watching movies and TV, just sitting on the couch. And I spent time with my kids. I would find those bursts of energy, especially when he wasn't around or when we go do things, but it wasn't the Jasmine that I knew. It just wasn't. It wasn't the person that I envisioned myself to grow into, being a married woman and being a wife. But I was so deep into it that I couldn't see it. I couldn't see it. And he contributed to keeping me numb with that because he saw it. And it's like when I finally stepped back, I actually made some spiritual baths because spirit was calling me and I was tired. I was tired of living like this. This has gone on for 2 years. No more. I prayed, and I asked my spiritual team, I asked my ancestors. And most importantly, I called on God. Like, I gotta get out of this energy and this funk so I can figure out my next steps. Even when I'm staying married to him, because I don't believe in divorce, I was like, I gotta do something. And that's when the spiritual bath that I created, my womb healing, trauma bonding bath I created, it paid off. And I was able to step back and look at all of these patterns together, and it really hit me. None of this was random, okay? None of this was random. My marriage wasn't just a relationship. It was my mirror. Because these patterns were not just in my marriage. These patterns that showed up before and before and before and before. I just never really saw it. I always thought, I'd have mastered myself. No, honey, you didn't master a damn thing. That's why God sent this mirror to you. A very belt-to-ass, harsh lesson. Actually, wet belt to ass, like Cardi B says, okay? I got lashes, okay? It really showed me where I needed to learn boundaries, because I thought boundaries were more of a verbal thing. I didn't realize boundaries was really standing in my energy and my space. And if you're gonna disrespect me, if you're gonna do certain things, then I'm gonna draw this line, and I'm not gonna give you this in return. Instead of always trying to be a people pleaser and over explaining myself and trying to control how they felt. At this point, and it's not let them, fuck them. You feel the way you feel. You want to do what you want to do. I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do it to protect my peace and do it because it's in alignment with me, right? I needed to know, I figured out where I needed healing, where I needed support, okay? Because a lot of times we think money, transactional things is what support is as an entrepreneur, but that's not. That's like a small little bit of it. Emotional support, emotional, healing, clarity. I just saw through all of that where I needed to return back to Jasmine. And not even the version of myself that I was right before I met him, because even she was still scarred. She was still wounded. She still had a lot of trauma that she had suppressed and thought, I've healed. No, this whole marriage, when I tell you, and I'm going to tell you, that's how I forgive myself. I don't forgive him. No. Because I can't forget the way that I was treated. I mean, I literally called him a devil and a monster because the devil's in him. And he knows this. This is nothing new information. I'm very transparent. No. I forgave myself and I gave him grace. And only because we have kids. That's the only reason. At this point, I lay with this man, I had a child with him, and I have to look at him until one of us hits that ground. So, this is where we are. And I don't want to bring my kids had already experienced enough, and I didn't want to bring them into anything further. So, yes, I needed to return to not myself, but to the newer version of the woman that I saw myself being, okay? And so after realizing all of this, the question became, okay, now what? What do I do? How do I shift this without, overwhelming myself, causing more drama? And I crashed out. Don't get me wrong, I crashed out hard. And I'm going to talk about that on another episode, okay? But I decided to do one pattern at a time. I focused on each pattern, on where I needed to be. And I worked on one shift at a time, one moment of awareness at a time. Because if I tend to overgive, I would pause. That's where my grounding spray comes in. Okay? That right there in itself allows me to step back and really take in the self-awareness. Because the spray is layered with peppermint, lavender, frankincense, and myrrh. And then it has a base of Florida water to help cleanse the energy in the air around you and cleanse yourself. But smelling those smells activate the chemicals in your body, right? That release the transmissions to the brain to allow you to calm yourself, calm your nervous system, and really take that time to sense what's going on, understand your body, and have a moment of clarity, right? If I started doubting myself, instead of trying to do 10 things, I would choose one small action a day. And the first most important thing I would do in the morning, not taking a bath, but taking a shower, I would use my scrub. I would use my scrub. Again, the smells, the minerals, the herbs, the roots, all of it has alchemy in it. You know, not only does it naturally actually take care of your skin, but energetically, those components do amazing things for you. And I would think about while I'm in the shower, because the shower is a cleansing space, the best place to start. I would think about, okay, what's the one thing that I really want to accomplish today that will make me feel satisfied for today? Okay? So one small action at a time. And then if I started to isolate myself, I would ask for a tiny bit of help. Even if it was calling a friend, even if it was using ChatGPT, even if it was Googling something, or even asking my kids, and especially my kids, they love to help me out. And it didn't matter what it was. It just depended on what the help I was seeking at the time. And maybe something small help, nothing big. Maybe like, hey, I want you to give me some feedback on this idea. That's help. Right? Instead of me trying to give my own self feedback and then getting frustrated and be like, you know, that was me all the time. Or I'm going to delete this video, right? If I would freeze, because Lord knows I'll do that. I recognize that freeze. And I break the task either into 2 steps or multiple steps. Or if I was freezing, I would just stop. You know what? Like applying for jobs. You'll freeze easily trying to find a job, right? Especially if you've been unemployed for quite some time now and you got kids and you're really trying to get back on your feet. And I would save 10 million jobs and be like, I'm going to apply for all these jobs today. And then I wouldn't apply for none because I'd be so overwhelmed. So if I was feeling overwhelmed, you know what? Let me set a goal. I'm only going to pick 3 jobs that I really, really feel like align with what I want to do. And I'm just going to save them. And then maybe a few hours later, I might pick it up again, maybe take a nap, go do something, help the kids, you know, just whatever it is to take my mind and my body off of it. Then I might come back to it later, or I might wait till tomorrow, because guess what? Sometimes we don't have to do everything. But when your nervous system has been under duress for so freaking long, it's really best to take those breaks, because you'll just shut down again and again and again and again and again. Trust me. And if my emotions had me overwhelmed, I would ask myself, is this mine? Are these my emotions? Is this somebody else's emotion or energy? And again, going back to my Relax With Me grounding spray, that spray right there it's great for meditation. It's great. It's basically like a sage, a replacement for sage if you can't burn it. But it's amazing to be able to take the time to step back and say, wait a minute, who's carrying in this? You know, and if I don't want to carry it, God, I'm giving that to you. Take it, please. That's your job anyways. We talked about this earlier, okay, sir? Or her, it, whatever, spirit. Okay. So 1% shifts. Just one little shift at a time. You got to retrain your energy. You got to retrain your nervous system. You have to find a way. I had to find a way to do it to where I wasn't crashing out again and again and again. And that's really the heart of my message today, which is to find small awareness, small shifts for big transformations. Okay? Okay. And as you also listening to this found a little bit more about my Janet Marcella Relax With Me spray and my grounding spray and my body scrub, which I will have more all about that. There'll be links in the bottom to let you know even more about my brand and my business. I'm so excited to be unpacking this with you, okay? Because this marriage drained the shit out of me, and I'm so happy to be free. So I ain't got no hair, y'all. I cut it all off. Start fresh again. Okay? And as we go on, episodes will get into deeper stuff. I'll talk more about ways that I found healing. We'll talk about topics and subjects that maybe we shouldn't be talking about. It's a lot of laughs, fun, all that. But at the end of the day, this is the safe space to really utilize what I have learned and pass that on to anybody who this may resonate with. Okay? So, again, today's unpacking the patterns my marriage exposed and the clarity they forced me to gain. And if any of this actually resonates with you, sit with it, listen to your body, and give yourself grace while you break the cycles. So until the next episode, y'all be easy, y'all be loved, y'all receive all the positive energy vibes from me, okay? Until we talk again, and we gotta unpack this ish, okay? So go unpack your own shit. Thank you. Peace. Bye.